If you're trying to unlock your potential and become who you could be, therapy is a useful place to look for tools that can help you unlock that potential. Therapy is a place where people come to overcome things, to become who they are, to see what they're made of. So, therapy is extremely useful in unlocking potential, and today I've packaged three of the most useful tools from therapy that, in my opinion, through my clinical experience, has helped people unlock their potential. And the first tool is called values clarification. If you want to unlock your potential, you have to have a tool that helps you understand what matters to you. Because ultimately, you're only going to unlock your potential if you know what matters to you, if you have something worth unlocking your potential for, right? So, values clarification is a tool to do just that. Values are the ways of being and doing that you want to embody in the world. That could be integrity, honesty, compassion, resilience, whatever way of being and doing that you want to embody in the world and that you want to put out there, that is a value. So, values clarification is just the process of uncovering what the values are that are important to you as a unique individual. The famous psychologist Carl Rogers, when speaking about what matters in life, put it well in the form of a question. He asked, am I living a life which is deeply meaningful to me and which truly expresses me? If you can answer yes to that question, then I would argue that you're winning at life. And the only way to successfully answer that question is to clarify what matters to you. And you need a tool to do that. And again, that tool is values clarification. So, how can we clarify what matters to us in our lives using a tool from therapy? Well, you can do it by thinking about a really good memory. Try to think of a memory that is really sweet to you, a time when you felt really alive, vital, and connected. And then bring that memory to life. You might be cycling through a few memories, but try to choose one and go into that memory. Think about who was there, what was going on, where was it, what time of day was it, and then think about the kind of person that you were being in that memory. What were you embodying that made it feel so satisfying? Were you present? Were you giving out love? Were you grateful? Were you spending time with family? Were you being perseverant? Whatever it is, think about what it was in that memory that you were embodying, and those will be your values. And that is the end of the exercise. So if you've done that successfully, congrats. You now know what matters to you. You have now done the groundwork for unlocking your potential, which is identifying what is worth unlocking your potential for. And so the second tool from therapy that we're going to move into is called cognitive diffusion. Most of us take our thoughts way too seriously, and that is something I realized in my practice as a psychologist. And it's no accident that we take our thoughts too seriously because we live in a world where people take their thoughts too seriously. But our thoughts are not reality. We often confuse them with reality, but they're not reality. Our thoughts are just thoughts. In the same way that the map is not the actual territory, our thoughts are representations of what reality really is. And chances are that if you're stuck in specific thinking patterns that are stopping you from unlocking your potential, then you have to go beyond those thinking patterns because those thinking patterns have not served you thus far. Even if you believe that your thoughts are always true, which they're not, by the way, but if you're stubborn and you believe that, if you believe that they're always true, you have to second guess that because thinking is not just important on the dimension of truthfulness, thinking is also important on the dimension of consequences or the dimension of usefulness to us. Because something can be true, but it might not be useful to constantly engage in that specific thinking pattern. I'll give you an example. If you have the thought that most marriages end in divorce, you might not put yourself out there because of that thinking pattern, and you might never put yourself in opportunities to meet someone who you might actually enjoy spending time with, which might lead to lots of loneliness in the future and might lead to really dark space. So in that case, the thought was true, but it wasn't useful. To unlock your potential, you have to realize when your thoughts are not useful to you. So when you realize that your thoughts are not useful, even if they're true, even if they're valid, when you realize that your thoughts are not useful, you have to know how to create distance between yourself and your thoughts. And this is where the tool from therapy comes in. The tool specifically called cognitive diffusion. Cognitive is just a fancy German word for thoughts, and diffusion just means not being fused with your thoughts. So, sort of stepping outside of be infused or swim in with your thoughts to sort of sitting on the riverbank and watching your thoughts flow by, having a healthy distance between yourself and your thoughts. You can practice getting a healthy distance from your thoughts and not taking them too seriously by literally singing them to the tune of Happy Birthday. I know that sounds weird, but just try it. If you have a thought such as I am useless, then you would literally go, I am useless, I am useless, I am useless, I am useless, no, 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 no. And you'd keep going. But singing those thoughts to the tune of Happy Birthday can create a bit of healthy distance between yourself and the thoughts so that you don't take them too seriously. And even though it is silly, it's that exact silliness that allows you to create that distance and not take them too seriously. Now let's move on to our third tool. Because so far you have figured out how to identify what matters to you and what's worth unlocking your potential for. And you've also learned how to create a bit of distance from your thinking so that you can step outside of your thinking and move forward to unlock your potential. But the third tool is really important because the third tool helps you sidestep emotions, because it's not just our thinking that holds us back, it's also our emotions. And arguably the emotion that holds us back the most severely is fear. So you need an effective tool from therapy to help you sidestep fear. So if fear is stopping you from actualizing your potential, a tool from therapy that I would recommend is something called exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is a widely researched and evidence-based tool that is used to treat anxiety and fear. And it's very effective because it teaches you how to slowly expose yourself to the very thing that you fear so that that fear can subside over time. That seems to be as close to a universal truth when it comes to psychology as possible, which is the idea that if you expose yourself to the things that you fear, the fear will subside. If you avoid the things that you fear, that fear will grow. As W. Clement Stone, the famous philanthropist and businessman, once said, you will not overcome your fear by thinking, but you will overcome it by action. And that is extremely true. And if you feel that fear is holding you back in your own life, consider using exposure in your own life. Overcoming your fears allows you to unlock your potential because when we live from a space of fear, we play it safe. We stay indoors. And that's fine if your goal is to stay indoors. But if your goal is to move beyond the world, to get out there, then you have to know how to step beyond fear. And as Helen Keller once said, the bold are caught just as much as the fearful. So you need to understand that whether you play it safe or not, life is going to catch you out in some way. So you might as well step into your fears and move in the direction of unlocking your potential. So how do you do it? If you're thinking about overcoming a specific fear in your life, a fear that's stopping you from unlocking your potential, then you can use the tool of exposure therapy in your own life. Exposure therapy, again, is very useful for overcoming fears. And how you do it is you think about something that you fear and you write it down on a piece of paper, and then you write down 10 because you're going to use a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most fearful. So you put that situation that's most fearful right up there, that thing you're really struggling to do, but then you break that event down into smaller sub-events that might not be as fearful. So for example, if you fear snakes and the most fearful thing for you to do would be to hold a snake, then below that you can write something that's a bit less fearful, which is maybe looking at a snake through a glass window. And then below that could be looking at a picture of snakes and so on. But you create basically steps to get to the ultimate fear, but you start at step 1. Start with just looking at a picture of a snake. And you expose yourself to that and you realize that you're safe. And once you feel safe doing that, you go to the next step. Eventually, you'll get to your fear and you will conquer it. An obvious disclaimer here is don't expose yourself to things that are actually dangerous for you. Okay, because some fears are valid. You want to have the fear of falling from a 50-story building because it's functional. But if the fear is something that doesn't actually cause you any danger, such as holding a non-venomous snake, then it's fine to go ahead with it. So in conclusion, if you want to unlock your potential, know what matters to you, learn how to go beyond your thinking, and learn how to go beyond your emotions. If you can do that, if you can use the tool of values clarification to figure out what matters to you, and then you can move toward what matters to you regardless of what you're thinking and regardless of what you're feeling, then, my friend, you will be unstoppable, and I don't see how you will not unlock your potential.